I'm Kev.
And I'm Steve.
And we're from the internet.
Want to support the show? Do all your Amazon shopping through we'refromtheinternet.com/Amazon, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, but we get a little kickback on everything you buy.
Name something you did once, but would never do again.
You didn't once? Is that what he just said? Who is this guy?
It sounds like it, but you'd never do again.
Is he a friend of yours? Where did we get him from? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, to translate what garbled voice man just said, name something you did once, but would never do again. Now, I have pondered this question at great length over the last couple of days, and I'm struggling with it a little bit because I was trying to think of this grand, sort of significant thing of, well, everyone says this is a wonderful thing to do, but I would never do it again for these very noble reasons. I don't have anything like that. I don't really have principles as a rule. My one principle is no principles. But then I started to think about it. And there's a whole load of things that I've tried and just bother with again. I'm not really fussed. If I was forced to do it, I'm not afraid to do it again, but I'd probably never jet ski again. I did that once.
See, I learned from other people. My wife jet skied once, and it was on our kind of make-do honeymoon that we went on because we couldn't afford a proper one. And she went jet skiing and was crippled for the entire week, just couldn't move.
Now, I would suggest she wasn't crippled in the same way I was crippled by a jet ski.
She couldn't move, but go on.
Well, when you first ride a jet ski, I don't know if this is just jocks at the lake being jackasses and trying to hurt the noobs, but I was only about 14 at the time, so hopefully they weren't being that cruel. But you get in the lake, and they tell you to reach up onto the handlebars of the jet ski whilst still in the water. So you're sort of hanging off the back of a jet ski, your legs in the water, and then you get up, because if you try and stand on it when it's not moving, you'll just fall off, because it'll only stay upright if it's moving forward. So you get on it, and you rev it up a little bit, and you're supposed to then, whilst a jet ski, as in a thing propelled by jets, is moving forward, you're supposed to then drag yourself up by your arms and stand on it. Now, I don't know if this is just the awkwardness of my height as a human being, but I turned the power on, and the exhaust just battered the hell out of my groin. I just let go. The jet ski went shooting off into the distance. And it's not the first time I've had an incident like that. I've only ridden a quad bike once as well.
Oh, but they're made for danger, aren't they? They're supposed to hurt.
Riding a quad bike around one of these off-road track things, hit a corner that was marginally steep, forgot to turn, or was incapable of turning. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, and I did land on my head. When I went up the bank corner, the bike just sort of went vertical in front of me, and I fell off the back. But inexplicably, for a vehicle that you give gas to by twisting on the bloody handlebar thing, it just kept going. And I had to get up off the floor and chase after it. Anything that has handlebars seems to just throw me off the back and then run away and make me chase it. I don't understand.
See, I spent ages trying to think of things like that where I had to go on something and it went wrong. And yeah, there's lots of things where I just thought, that was a bit boring. But the one thing I can't get rid of in my head is, and you probably didn't do this because you're the kind of smug person who probably didn't have this kind of weird idiosyncrasies growing up. Did you ever look at a hot stove and just think, wonder how long I can hold my hand on that? Because the amount, I remember being a kid and just staring at my hand, staring at this thing I knew was over 100 degrees, really hot, and just placing my entire palm on it. And then just thinking, ow, why did I do that? Never doing that again.
I can one-up you, two-up you maybe. I did that very thing with an iron. My mum was
ironing.
ironing.
I've been there as well, actually, yeah.
And I just thought, I wonder.
What the hell is this different from the oven? Yeah. I went through a whole phase of wondering.
But surely when you did that, you were, 4 or 5 years old?
No, probably more like 10 to 12.
Okay, that's still more reasonable than when I was 15. And it was not like, you see, I've got a scar on my finger.
I can see it, yeah.
This is what is known as my magical finger, because there's no feeling in this finger anymore, because when I was about 14, I cut through it with a knife. I was trying to cut some cabbage up for my guinea pig, Porky, and it was a cold cabbage, and the knife just slid off it, went through my finger, down to the bone. So I thought, I probably don't have feeling in that finger anymore. So we were driving down to a camping holiday a year or so later, and I'm still living in a world where I assume I don't have any feeling in this finger. And my dad's messing around, setting up the caravan and swearing at everybody the way dads do when they're setting up caravans. And I'm sat there in the car, the cigarette lighter from in the car's there, and I'm thinking, I wonder how hot they get when you don't actually turn them on, but the engine's been running for about 6 hours. I know how I can find out. I've got a finger that has no feeling.
You say that, right?
I don't have feeling in it anymore.
Yeah, I got fooled into doing that by my cousins once. They tightly pressed it. They had one. Do you normally pull it out and then stick the cigarette into the hole?
No, I think that I've never.
Or does that get hot?
I think what you're supposed to do
is push it against the metal bit.
You push the thing in and it heats it up loads, and then you pull it out and the metal bit's so hot you can light a cigarette on it.
I can't remember whether my cousins got me to stick my finger in the hole and not knowing what was going to happen, or whether they got me to push the metal bit on my hand. But I didn't know what it was, and that hurt a lot.
Why do cars still have cigarette lighters built in?
You're allowed to smoke at the wheel now, are you?
I don't know, but that's got to be like some weird throwback to another world. Imagine if you were dropped into 2015 as an alien and you're in a world where you can't smoke in pubs, there's no tobacco advertising on TV, you can't use tobacco advertising for a sporting event. Basically, if you have a cigarette, people will look at you like you're throttling a puppy in front of them. You're a social leper for smoking. Yet every single car has, usually next to a no smoking sign, if it's a company car, a cigarette lighter built into it.
Maybe
Why
it's
is
for
that
lighting
needed?
things as well. Maybe it's not a cigarette lighter. Maybe it's
It has a picture of a cigarette on it.
Yeah.
Or a smouldering child's finger. That could be what the picture is. It's in black and white. No one really knows. But I know people use it to plug their phone into and stuff now. But surely in this day and age, you could just have a little latch. You don't need to have... Who still has the actual cigarette lighter bit in where it's supposed to be? Because it's just dangerous. When I bought my new car, I took that out and threw it away. It's not in there anymore.
Yeah, we haven't got one. We have a USB thing that goes in mine because I'm such a nerd.
But yeah, well, everyone has. That's what that part of the car is for now. It's to plug stuff in and charge it. But they all still come with the cigarette lighter. It would be like buses still having ashtrays in the back of the seats. They were a fascinating thing when I went on school trips as a kid. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
On the coach, you'd have the ashtray, and sometimes though they'd be half full of ash still, and you'd spin it around, and then you'd get a handful of ash and throw it at your mate and make, you got ash on you now. But they're not on buses anymore. Buses have seatbelts on now, for God's sake. But you still have a cigarette lighter built into a car.
Maybe it's cheaper to just stick the cigarette lighter in there than it is to just put a cap over it and let you take it out.
That can't be the case. It must be cheaper just to put a lid on there, or just leave it exposed, because the first thing anybody does when they get a new car is just stick a charger in there for their phone.
Finger in there to see how hot it got.
Well, exactly. That would be the other thing you should do. And that, boys and girls, is the one thing that you should probably never even try once and then never do again. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, it's not worth it. If anyone's listening now...
Applying heat to fingers is a bad idea. I also once burnt my head with a pair of curling tongs. That's a story for another day. Want to help us spread the We're From the Internet word? Leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher would give us a nice little boost in the search results and help new listeners find us.